Hello, this is the Tradesight U.S. Stocks, Futures, and Forex Market Preview for Wednesday, the 10th of March, 2021. Hope you had a good trading day. It was not, Monday was a better trading day, obviously. We had easier, cleaner trades because you get the gap up, and we don't love gap and go days, and this was a big gap up. I mean, honestly, it erased most of Monday's gains in a huge gap. So that's just not what we like to see from a trading perspective. So it is what it is. But here's the ES front month futures contract. This is the daily chart of the ES and the S&P and futures form. We're right near the highs still here. There's a few things that did happen technically, and we'll look at the daily charts, and then we'll go through the intraday action. We'll talk about Wednesday. So crude oil was down 48 cents to 63.53. Again, as the economy sort of starts to heat up as we get through these vaccinations, crude oil, the demand for crude oil is going to be higher. That's going to take oil prices higher, and you've got OPEC putting the lockdown on their production, so that doesn't help the supply and demand equation. So, oil looks higher. Gold down $5.30 after a big bounce the other day is what it is. S&P cash gains, so 54.09. So it was basically holding up on Monday. It was green most of the day, and then it dropped, closed down 30 like late in the day. So now you're back up 54. So for the week so far, we're up about 25 points. The Nasdaq's the crazy one. After dropping like 300 points on Monday, huge gap up, almost 300, or it was 380. Huge gap up, 320 points, and closes up 495. It's still off the highs, obviously, but that's just such a big gap up. The problem is it's not a tradable gap, and we'll look at that in a minute. The stocks, though, now this is the one that I think drives everything. This is the one with the technical action that we would expect. So you got the 13 sell signal 2.5 weeks ago. You came down, you touched off of the red static trend line. Literally, that's the target of the 13 sell signal. Look how we came back and hit that exactly, right? So what do you expect the next day? You expect some kind of bounce. Well, it gapped up, and it actually closed up. This is the biggest update for the stocks. Now, a big chunk of it was the gap, but biggest update for the stocks in a long time, up 169 points. But right off that static trend line is the culmination of the 13. This is pure technicals in the market. So, this could be gone tomorrow, but for today it made sense. Biotech's up 136, Russell 2000 up 42 points. This one's approaching the highs, which is good for the economy when you see the small caps doing what they got to do. The VIX down $1.33. Still gonna, we'll see. We get back in those teens, we can start talking about the VIX for a trade. The trend, it's gonna be an options trade. The trend closes at 1.19, puts the 10-day at 1.02, which is neutral. Nasdaq volume 6.3 billion shares. So it's good volume. It's it's in the middle. It's right on the 10-day moving average. It's in the middle of what we've seen lately. No complaints. Advanced decline ratio on the Nasdaq plus 1718. So that's positive, but keep in mind. On the Nasdaq was up 495 points. I mean, that's one of the biggest point gains ever. And, this is not one of the top 10 days of the year in terms of the advanced decline ratio. On the New York, plus 688 only. That's nowhere near super huge, right? All right, Google up 32.86. That keeps it above. We talked about if it broke the lows of that high range base and went into the gap, that would be detrimental to the market, but that never happened so far, at least. Apple up $4.72. Nowhere near the highs. Netflix up 13.11. Again, nowhere near the highs. Very mid-range for the last 8 months. Amazon up 110.90. Very mid-range for the last 9 months. Tesla also up 110.58. Almost the same as Amazon. But that's a bounce off of, obviously, look, this stock's been overvalued. Came back a bit. There's going to be some back and forth on this stuff. Facebook up $10.43. Which is flat. Zoom up 31.18. That's a big update in Zoom, but just takes it back to retest the lows from back in January. So this is nowhere yet. Goldman Sachs, the one negative on the big list, down $3.60. So the bank's finally taking a hit when everything else is up. Interesting. TLT, the 20-year bond ETF, up $1.91. The Dow up just 30 points. Nobody really cares. Bitcoin currently, as I say this, closing at 54,000 and change is what it is. All right, in terms of the intraday action, here's 5-minute candles. So, it's not as exciting as you would think. I mean, you see such a big day. So on Monday, we opened flat. So Friday, you can see that's all the action. I can push it off the screen, most of it there. So then Monday, you opened flat. The gap filled in the first candle. We went higher. We kept trying to go higher. It looked good overall for most of the day. And then the last 2 hours sold off and closed negative and at the lows of the day. But then Tuesday, we recover almost that whole thing. We gap up. We did recover the whole thing. Gapped up and almost went to the highs. Pushed through the highs from Monday dead flat, and then very late in the day sold off. So the action's not, if you look at the action, this is the problem, right? We don't trade, like the fact that the Nasdaq's up 495 points or the S&P's up 54, this doesn't make us think, oh, I should have made a bunch of money, because it was such a mess, right? You gapped up from a down close, right? And then you get a little push higher, but then basically, if you go from about an hour in, we did go a little higher right heading into lunch, dead flat for 3 hours, sold off, and then at the close, you're right where you were about 30 minutes into the market. So it's not very exciting. Here's the Nasdaq side. A little more interesting. Look at that 13 sell signal. By the way, both of them had 13 sell signals for the day. Both of them, the risk lines work perfectly, right? So, so the problem is we just didn't really get a lot of opportunity to do what we generally like to do in the markets, and it is what it is. So I would say not the best session. In terms of economic data on Wednesday, CPI an hour before the bell, crude oil inventories an hour into the market, 10-year bond auction at 1, and federal budget balance at 2. Those are the U.S. numbers. There's a couple other numbers out there, but it's not a big deal. Charts, as usual, brought to you by eSignal. If you've not yet taken a trial of our services, feel free to do so. We will help you out for a couple weeks. Have a great trading Wednesday.